You're listening to the M3 Podcast, a weekly micro mini message designed to encourage, inspire, and maybe even make you smile this week. And now, this week's M3. Hey, I hope you are having a great week. Thanks for taking the time to watch this M3. You know, we often kind of talk around the church and kind of joke around about God has a wonderful plan for your life. You know, Satan has a wonderful plan for your life too. His plan is quite simple. His plan is to steal from you, to kill you, and destroy you. And that is his focus and his purpose and his plan for your life is to steal, kill, and destroy. Satan, we're told in John, is the father of lies. He's a liar and he's a father of lies. How do you know Satan is lying? His lips are moving. And that reality of Satan's attack against us brings us moments of temptation and struggle and trial in our lives. And Jesus gives us an example in Luke chapter 3 and 4 and Matthew chapter 3 and 4 of how we face struggle and trial. How do we come out on the top side and succeed in the moment of temptation? Because every one of us faces temptation. It's Benjamin Franklin who said that there are only two things certain in life, death and taxes. And he's right. It just seems like we're born, they tax us, and then we die. But there's nothing else that's certain for all of us, and that is that we face temptation. We will all have those moments when we look there and say, you know I should do this, but man, that looks good over there. And we all have those times. And each of us, you know what, we all have stories we can tell about times when we face those temptations and we've come out on top, and other times when we face those testings and we have not come out on top. But God's grace is there for us. He continues to work in the mold us because God has a plan for your life too. And his plan is that you would be conformed to the image of his son. His plan is that you will be holy and righteous. And so how do we face temptations? How do we come out and succeed in those moments of testing and trial? Because we're all going to have them. The example we see in Luke and in Matthew is this. In the example that we see with Jesus. And Jesus, he is baptized, and right before his temptation, we hear God say to him, "You are my son, the one whom I love, and with you I am well pleased." How do we face temptation? Is that we know who we are and we know who God is. When we know who we are, when we know the promises of God, when we know that we are a child of God, when we know we are one who is loved by God, when we know that God is faithful and his grace is there for us at all times, we know that God is never changing, we know that he is good and his mercy endures forever. When we know that, we can face times of struggle and trial because we're all going to face it. See, sometimes we'll get in those moments where we might, get that diagnosis. We hear that cancer diagnosis, or we have a loved one that dies, or we see crisis and struggle, and our reaction can often be say, well, how could a good God do this? How can these things happen? Those are moments of testing. Those are moments of trial when we're tempted to believe the lie that Satan tells us, that God is anything but good and that God is anything but love. And instead, that's those moments when we need to stand up and say, you know what? I know circumstances are bad, and this, quite frankly, is a living hell. But I know who I am. I know that I am a child of God, and I know who God is. He is love. He is good, and his desire for me is that I would be holy and righteous, and that standing on that promise from God. How do you face temptation? How do you succeed? Know who you are. Know who God is, and you can face any struggle, any trial in your life. Stand on the knowledge that you are God's chosen child. He loves you incredibly. And know who God is, never changing, always God, always loving. Have a great week. Thanks for watching this week's M. Thank you for listening to this week's M3. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player. You might also enjoy our blog, The Milk Can, online at jumpingjersey.org. Have a great week.